name is Dominic Lobasso. I'm a regional sales manager here at EndenRed Benefits, and I'm accompanied by my colleague, Matthew Mavroidis. So thanks for making some time today to fit us into the schedule. So I'll talk a little bit about who we are, and then how we might fit into the overall transportation picture. So EndenRed Group is a parent company, is our parent company, headquartered in Paris, France. So we're a global payments platform services company. We have over 850,000 clients. We have over 10,000 employees, and we operate in over 46 countries. And our primary focus is commuter benefits, but we also offer other benefits like meal perks, anytime pay, which is an early wage access program, and we also offer lifestyle spending accounts. So here in the US, we're known as EndenRed Benefits. We started out in 1985, and we have more than 10,000 clients, and we can offer a solution really for any size client. We take our customer service obligation very seriously. We enjoy a net promoter score of 77, which means most of our clients would refer us to another colleague or client to do business with. Some of our logos include Amazon, Spotify, the City of New York, and so on. Okay, so let's focus in on commuter benefits. So commuter benefits, again, is our primary business. We are experts in this field. We take pride in being one of the largest independent providers in the US of pre-tax commuter benefits. We have a passion for customers' culture to constantly improve our service. Our customer service and fulfillment centers are located in-house in Waltham, Massachusetts. That's our headquarters. We are 100% compliant with Section 132F tax laws. So that's the pre-tax commuter benefit laws that govern the US for pre-tax commuter benefits. Always looking for new ways to improve and give our participants more choices. And recently we've released, in the last, let's say, year and a half or so, micromobility options in addition to our traditional pre-tax commuter benefit programs. So the IRS Section 132F tax law was created to create tax advantages for both the employee and the employer. On average, employees can save about 30% on their commute, and employers save on their FICA payroll tax, which is about it's exactly 7.65%. So it's also good for the environment. It reduces our carbon footprint per employee by up to 20 pounds per day and 4,800 pounds per year, jumping, let's say, out of a car and into public transit. We have partnerships with many transit agencies, many parking garages, and many bike shops around the country. And we actually administer the commuter benefits for some of the big transit agencies around the country, like the one in Chicago, the DVRPC in Philadelphia, and the MBTA in Boston. So our commuter benefit program includes transit, parking, and van pool. And so currently the IRS pre-tax limit is $280 per month for transit and an additional $280 per month for parking. So this means that an employer can deduct that out of the employee's paycheck to pay for their commute to and from work for public transit. Any amount enrolled over that $280, let's say the expense is higher than that, it would simply be regarded as a post-tax deduction and reported as such out of their paycheck. And because we can do direct fulfillment of transit passes, we can offer any major transit pass in the US. This would include even the Red Line Rail in Cleveland, the Metro, the SORTA pass in Cincinnati, and so on. And so one of the things that our clients like about us is our employee portal. It's intuitive, it's easy to use, it can be accessed from a desktop, tablet, mobile device, and it's ADA compliant. Our mobile app gives participants the ability to access their accounts on the go. It does accommodate facial and thumb recognition, and participants can access all functionality on the mobile app that exists on the desktop. So more recently, the IRS changed the tax law, allowing participants to utilize transit and parking funds on their debit cards interchangeably. So, and this might have been as a result of the pandemic, when many employees had leftover balances on their transit wallet on their debit cards, since public transit, was barely being used, and many were driving to work and needing to pay for parking. So, we now have the ability to use transit balances for parking and vice versa, parking funds for transit purposes, as opposed to in the past, those balances would just sit there if the employee's mode of transportation changed. It would sort of be kind of wasted or just sitting there. So this is a big plus. So micromobility. Basically, this really complements and enhances the commuter benefits solution by giving the employee more choices, right? So we started working on some safer commuting alternatives. And so some of these options are perhaps primarily used for the first and last mile of the commute, but they can also be used for the entire commute. If you live in a city where your job and you live 25 blocks from where you work, you might take a scooter there as opposed to getting on a bus or a train. So in addition to traditional pre-tax benefits like trains, subways, and buses, we've added choices like bikes, e-scooters, private Lyft rides, corporate shuttles, as well as other partnerships that we have. And also note that Uber Pool and Lyft shared rides are considered pre-tax because they fall under the van pool category, right? All right, so we've been working with micromobility partners like Lime, Spin, Revel, which enables us to offer these e-bikes, e-scooters, and so on in many cities around the country. We've partnered with a company called Ride Panda. This is a micromobility partner and provider that operates in Ohio and operates in many areas around the country. We've also partnered with City Bike in New York City and San Francisco. Lyft is a provider that actually owns a lot of these e-scooters and e-bikes under a different name, including City Bike in New York City is actually owned by Lyft. So what else? Yeah, so the corporate shuttle bus is another option. We partner with a company called BusUp. So this is another option where organizations can share a shuttle if they happen to be located in close proximity to each other. So really the idea here is that the participant is getting all these choices, right? Traditional pre-tax benefits and the micromobility choices all on one ordering platform. And because these micromobility choices are considered post-tax, here at EndenRed, we automatically manage and calculate which deductions are pre-tax, which are post-tax on behalf of the employer, so that it could be reflected in the payroll deduction file, which we send the provider, we send the client each month. Here are our partner catalog. We have discounts on all these variety of micromobility choices. Could be 10% and anywhere from let's say 10% to 20%. So that's one advantage. Another advantage of ordering through our system. Implementation is fairly simple and straightforward. It does take about 60 days. And again, the reason why there's an implementation is because in this paradigm, we would contract with the employer, and then the employer would offer these pre-tax commuter benefits or post-tax, could be just micromobility, to their employees. So this wouldn't be a direct, let's say, engagement with employees, but rather with employers. I'm happy to take any questions. That's really this.
All right. Well, thank you, Dominique. Sure. Are there questions from people? If you could raise your hand or put it in the chat. I'm sure this was a topic of interest at the MOVE meeting regarding this benefit. So I'm sure there may be some questions about this this program for Dominique.
Any takers out there?
Well, I do have a question, Dominique.
Sure.
Is EndenRed, will they partner with more local transportation companies besides the ones that you show here? For instance, we have a workforce transportation pilot with Togus and Avient right now that we're operating. And it's run through a pilot, but and nobody, the employer nor the employee is paying for it because we're trying to work through the kinks. But eventually we want to, use the commuter benefits. Are you willing to work with these local companies and transportation projects?
Sure. I think we would be. We actually have a partnerships person that focuses, strictly on these relationships. So we can certainly put them in touch with our key person that manages that. This is the same person that's created the partnerships with all these different companies like Revel, Lyft, and all these micromobility partners. So certainly we can certainly try, and if it makes sense, then we would certainly do it.
And I guess I'm really curious about the micro mobility portion that you talked about, because I know that prior to 2017, bikes used to be included under the commuter benefits at, I think, $20 a month, but then that was removed when they redid the whole corporate tax laws. So explain to me again how, like adding scooters or bicycling, how that works under the commuter benefits or under your program.
Sure. So you're absolutely right, Sharon. Bikes were biking to work was removed, and you're right. It was a $20 stipend from it wasn't a pre-tax deduction, but rather it was a subsidy that was provided by the employer. They were basically, providing $20 as an incentive to bike to work if you could. But yeah, that stopped. So what happens now is employers can still take advantage of that as a green initiative. So they can still offer bike, and it just would be simply a post-tax type of thing. Or if they want to give that stipend, it would be taxable and it would be, added to their, paycheck. They would pay the tax on the paycheck because it's no longer, there's their benefit as far as taxability, no tax advantage to it. So that would fall under the same realm. A bike would fall into the same realm as, let's say, an e-scooter and an e-bike and an individual Lyft ride, for example. So, but the idea is to create convenience for the employee that perhaps they can just go to one portal, and it could be that maybe they only order a micromobility type of enrollment for the coming month to commute, or it could be a combination. It could be that they can take the bus, let's say, to a certain point, and then they might be able to grab a micromobility vehicle for the rest of the way and then park when they get to, maybe they pick up a city bike, for example, when they get to Manhattan, just to use that as an example, and ride to work, and then they would, they would just park it at another stand when they get to the office. So those are post-tax deductions. So there is no tax advantage, to answer your question. But again, the big benefit is that it enables employers to provide sort of like a one-stop shop as far as commuting, as far as, if you happen to live in an area where there's good, strong public transit, great. If not, maybe micromobility would be the answer in many cases. So yeah, but that's a good point, Sharon. You're right. That there's no tax advantage, but it's done to create convenience where it works, where it makes sense.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good to know. I was trying to get my head wrapped around that because I knew there used to be an incentive for biking and now there isn't, and how that worked with your program. But what makes sense is that it allows the employers to provide something as a one-stop shop that makes it easier for their employees to be able to get to work, especially if they can't take just one mode of transportation to get there. So that's really interesting.
Exactly.
So anybody else have any questions